Welcome back, kids. Today I'm making a 9-foot sign on a 4-foot CNC. Curious about how I'm going to do that? Stick around and fix and show you. Alright, so this is my very unique workpiece for today. This is a 9-foot section out of the back of a church pew. And this is going to be a double-sided sign that's going to hang in the Trinity Baptist Church in Bradford, Arkansas. This is going to require a lot of setup on the CNC. For one thing, I'm going to have to remove my fence because this will require a tiling cut. And I did this once before on video, but I figure it's time to revisit that, and this is a good opportunity to do so. So, yeah, I got to remove my fence. I've got to set me a straight edge on the wasteboard, and then I'm going to show you how to set this up in VCarve Pro. So let's get to that. I'm going to show you exactly how to do this. All right, I'm in VCarve Pro. I'm going to take my time and go in depth and show y'all how to set up a tile cut. So first, I'll show you, this is my sign, and we'll look at the job setup here. Of course, my width is 108 inches, and then my working height, the actual working height that I have is 19 3/16. It's 3/4 of an inch wide, thick. Working off the material surface, XY in the bottom left. Just everything's pretty standard there. And even though this is going to be a double-sided sign, I'm not going to set it up as double-sided because there's really no need in doing that, because all I got to do is cut the same sign twice. So I'm going to cut it, then I'm going to flip it over, and then I'm going to cut the other side. So, and to be honest, I have never did a double-sided in VCarve Pro, but you know, for something like this, it's just not necessary. It couldn't possibly be easier than what I'm doing anyway. So here we go. We got that. Now, I've got all my text in here, and it's set up just the way I wanted. I got everything centered up here in the middle of the workpiece. So I got to highlight everything here, and we're going to create the tiles. So you go over here to the tile toolpath tool, click on that. And the first thing you have to do is turn it on, tile toolpaths. So then right here, it just automatically filled in some tiles. Well, actually, I'd already been playing with this, so it remembered what I did yesterday. So through much thought and testing, I determined that for this particular sign, my tiles need to be 33¼ inches long. The reason being, when you're making tile cuts, if you can help it at all, don't split a letter or anything else for that matter. Sometimes you can't help it, but try not to split anything on the tile line, because if you do that, you have no room for error once you do that. If you can make your line, the dividing line between two letters or between two words, that's much better, because then even if you're off a 16th or an eighth, you should still be okay. It shouldn't even be noticeable. But if you split a line in two, then if you're off an eighth of an inch, it's going to show up. It's going to tell on you. So that's why I have this. And I'll just show you an example right here. I tried different tile lengths. So let me update that at 32. Well, see what happened at 32? It cut that L almost right down the middle. That is unacceptable. And it just barely got all of the M in him. In fact, it's just a little bit outside that boundary. So let's go back to where I had it, 33.25. We know that's good. Update the tiles. Now that's split the two L's, split that period, and I've got everything down here in one tile. This is one tile, and this is one tile. And you can look at each individual tile by using this little drop down over here. Like the tile that you're looking at is kind of grayed out. So in this case, we have T1 right here. You can see that. Then we could just choose T2 and it'll move over here. There's a T2 in there. And then T3 right here. And T4 is irrelevant. We're just going to pretend it's not even there because VCarve Pro will not generate any G code for the fourth tile because there's nothing in there. So for all practical purposes, it is irrelevant, and we're only going to have 3 tiles that we have to cut. Now, let me hide the tiling manager for a minute, and let's talk a little bit about how I'm actually cutting these letters here. So let's open this up all about. Of course, I'm using a 90-degree Groovy Jenny here, but I can't do it without setting a flat depth because this board is only 3/4 of an inch thick. If I just let it run as deep as it wanted to go, it would have room to do that in 3/4 of an inch. But then when I flip the board over, it's going to be right beneath the surface there. So I've got to keep my 2 halves, since it's a 2-sided sign, I got to keep each side away from the other one as far as the letters go. So what I'm going to do, I've got 0.75 to work with. I'm going to change the depth to I'm tempted to go 0.25. Yeah, I will. I'm going to go 0.25, and that'll leave me 0.25 between side 1 and side 2. And that'll become more clear. If you don't understand that right now, it'll become more clear to you once we actually get into the carving process. But here's another thing, though. If I cut all of that with just the 90-degree Groovy Jenny and have a flat depth set of 0.25, it's going to take forever to do that. So I need a clearance tool. So in this particular case, since those letters there are pretty thick, I'm going to use the 1/4 inch downtown Jenny as the clearance tool. And that will knock the time down a whole lot. And what I'll end up with, instead of the classic V carve, you have your V that will run right down the center of there, well, that's not going to be there. This is all going to have a flat depth, but the edges here will be beveled at with that 90-degree Groovy Jenny. Same thing over here. Let's go look at that. Close that out. Let's open that hem. Same thing. I'm cutting. I'm going to need to change that to 0.25 depth. 0.25. Okay. Just like the rest of it, using a 90-degree Groovy Jenny with a flat depth of 0.25, and I'm using the 1/4 inch downtown Jenny as the clearance tool. So I'm only using 2 tools to do this sign. And because of the irregular shape and size of this board that I'm working with, I'm not going to use the ATC today. I'm just going to set it in manual mode and use my manual tool change button to change out the bits, which is not going to be a big deal at all. So that's why I'm doing this. So I'm going to have a flat depth or flat bottom on all of this instead of a V carve, but the edges will be beveled, and it'll still look really, really nice. And if you don't understand anything about this section, the VCarve Pro section, you can go back and watch my first video on doing a tile cut, and I'll have a link to that in the description below. And it goes into more detail about setting this up. So I'm really just kind of touching on the high points here in this demonstration. But I do have a more detailed explanation in a previous video. Link will be down below. So I'm going to close that. So now we do still have the problem of this needs to be cut or needs to be aligned on the wasteboard in the Y direction and not the X. So how do we do that? Well, first thing we got to do is go back to our job settings, job set up. And we have 108 inches long by 19.1875. Well, what we got to do is just reverse those. So we're going to change this one, 19.1875, and then we're going to make this one 108. So that's going to get us our vertical look that we need. But we still need to move this text up here. So I'm just going to highlight all of it. And then we're going to use this tool right here to rotate this text. And I may have to do this more than once. Let's see. I'm just going to put it on 90 degrees. Apply. Well, there you go. Got it right the first time. How about that? Then just move it up here and get it close. And then we can go here to the alignment tool. Align material. Oh, yeah. Align to material. Click that. Now it's centered up in there. So that should be perfect. And let's go back to our tiles and just make sure that everything is still going to be cool. Turn it back on. So I had it showing feeding through the X, which is why you're seeing these tiles still running horizontally across here. But of course, in the final thing, it needs to be in the Y. So I'm going to set it in the Y. My tile height we determined a while ago was going to be 33 1/4. And my tile overlap, I didn't talk about that. That is an 1/8 inch that I'm going to allow myself just a little bit of wiggle room to, in case I am off just a fraction, which I won't be. I don't even know why I bother doing that. But anyway, it's just habit, really. So anyway, so here we go. I'm going to update the tiles. So there we are. Now we can still see that first tile ends between the two L's. The second tile ends between the two periods. And him is in a tile just with that one period right there. Just exactly the way we had it when it was set up horizontally. So we're good to go. All I got to do is hide the tiling manager. And let's save this joker. Well, first, let's check to see how long it's going to take to cut it. We're looking at 1 hour, 1 minute, 57 seconds, thereabouts. That's just an estimate. That's close enough for me. It's going to be around an hour to cut this. So, and I did not recalculate. Let me do that. Close that over here. Because see, I still have my cut down here instead of up here where it's supposed to be. So all I got to do to fix that is just go right here, recalculate all tools, click that, boom. And it's no longer here. It moved it right up here where it needs to be. And we can confirm that by doing a preview. Reset it. Preview all toolpaths. There they are. And I'll turn some color on just so you can see. It's all about him. And that's the way it should be. So let's save this joker. Save. I am going to do visible toolpaths to multiple files because we got 3 different tiles that we're going to be cutting. So let's do this. Save. And here they are. I have tile 1, tile 2, and tile 3. So I'm just going to save it just like it is right there. I've already got it in the right folder. Do I want to replace it? Yes, I'd saved it earlier. So there we go. So now the only thing left to do is go make some man glitter. So let's get over there and do some final setup on the placement of the workpiece. And we're going to start carving. All right, we got to remove my fence. But before I do, I want to mention something to you that a lot of y'all really, really disappointed me. In fact, every one of you disappointed me.
That's what she said.
In my 35 signs video, because none of y'all either noticed or pointed out that I had defaced my fence about halfway through those 35 signs.
Are you serious right now,
bro? The reason I did that was the problem with this fence design is you cannot clamp from the back side here or from the front. And that, it was always a little bit of an issue, but I always worked around it, and it worked great for the 2 years I've had this machine. But I finally figured out thanks to a good friend of mine, Reed Smith in Sanford, North Carolina. What up, Reed? Appreciate you, brother. He, along with literally thousands of others, figured this out a long time ago. It's better to use dog holes than a solid fence like this. So that's what I'm going to do. When I take this off today, it's not going back on there. I'm going to cut me some holes in here and set up some dog holes and do it that way from now on. And that way I can clamp anywhere I need to along here. Like along this side here, I still can't clamp. I can't clamp from back here. That ain't good. So, I mean, it does work great though. And it did exactly what I needed it to do, except I could not clamp from the either side. So anyway, let's get this thing off here and leave this ugly chapter behind us, or behind me. Whew, damn. Of course, I had to use flathead brass screws because that's all I could find at the time. Do any of y'all even know why they still make flathead screws? I mean, flathead screwdrivers should be obsolete. But they ain't. If you know the answer to that, leave it in the comments below. I really am curious about that. Now I'm going to uncover a sin from my past, which many of y'all will remember if you've been here any period of time. Cutting the holes in the wasteboard didn't go quite as planned. I did have a couple little mistakes. Dun, dun, dun. Oh well, I got over that a long time ago. However, when I did this, my spoilboard was relatively new, very pretty. Then I scarred it up like that. Anyway, now my spoilboard looks like shit, so it don't really matter anymore. All right, I got this out of the way. Let me go get my straight edge. I'm going to mount it along here so we'll have something to slide the workpiece on as we go through our 3 tiles that we'll use to cut this 9-foot sign. All right, I got my straight edge here, and I'm just going to align it with this grid line right here. And I cut these a long time ago. If you don't have grid lines on your spoilboard yet, you definitely need to do that because it comes in real handy, especially in situations like this. It just helps you keep your stock aligned square with the machine. So I'm going to put it right here on this line. I've got a little hole already drilled in this one on this end. There's a hole that was already in the other end. So I'm just going to screw it down here, and it'll just stay here until I'm finished with this sign. Let me go down to the other end. We'll get that. All right. All right, now you can see that I have just split that grid line all the way to the back there. So now I know that this straight edge is exactly in line with my machine. And I'll also mention Amazon has a fantastic deal on these straight edges. I bought this one in 2022. This one is 50 inches, and it's a 3-set deal. You get a 50-inch, 38-inch, and a 24-inch for like 90 bucks. Now, you ain't gonna beat that at Woodpeckers or Rockler or anywhere like that. And these jokers are just as straight as they need to be. I'm serious, they really are. I would probably put them up against any of those high dollar ones. But so anyway, I will have a link to these in my Amazon store in the description below. Y'all check that out, and I guarantee you, you'll be very happy with these. If you don't already have straight edges, you're not going to get a better deal than this. All right, now I got to pull my machine back away from the back wall far enough to where I can set that 9-foot workpiece up here. So not quite, got about a foot to go. Wow, let me check back here and make sure all my wires are okay. Looks good. Okay, that was good. Yep. All right. Dang, I'm out in the middle of the shop. Whew. Oh boy. Pull it back a little bit. That is going to be one big old sign. Dang. All right, I got my workpiece up here on the CNC. It is blocked in on this side with my straight edge, and on this side I've got a piece of scrap cedar and a piece of scrap MDF hugging this side of it. And what we're doing is eliminating any chance of movement in the X direction. We don't want that. All I have to do is control the Y, and then I've got it made. So I'll walk around here and show you the back here. This, I just got this in propped up on that roller stand. You can see I don't have much room left back here. So what I'll be doing, we're going to cut it here first, the first tile. Then I'm going to move it down 33¼ inches. We'll cut the second tile. I'll move it down again another 33¼ inches, and we'll cut that third tile. So as you can see, only thing I'm moving is in the Y. The X is taken care of. So that just eliminates half of whatever problems I could run into. All right, we're going to set the 0 XY right in here. And you'll notice I have removed this piece of trim that was on here. And the reason I did that is because this board was kind of warping, and you still see it's kind of high right there in the middle. But I've got that side clamped down, and this side I needed a way to keep it clamped down. So I removed the trim with permission from the customer, and now I can put screws through here. Now, on down there, you can see right up there, there was already a hole, and then further down there's another one. So I'm just using the existing holes, except for this one right here. But this is very important because this is going to be close to the XY. So anyway, let me jog the spindle over here. We'll get that set. It's going to be somewhere right in there. Drop it down just a little bit. I think I just want it I want the outside of this bit just flush with the edge here, or thereabouts, just close. Not too much. There's no. Okay, and as far as my X, I think I'm going to leave that right there too, but that looks pretty good. That little black dot that I put right there, that just marked the inside edge of where that trim's going to be, and he's going to replace that trim. So I'm just making this little corner here is the XY. So let me go up here to the Masso and we'll set that, and I'm also going to create a G offset for this entire project. So this will all, for the entire project, no matter how many times I have to move this thing down, this location will not change. Let me show you how I'm going to do that. So for right now, you'll notice my X and Y here is the same as my X and Y on the machine, but that won't always be true. So what I need to do is write down these numbers. I could just ignore these. In fact, I could just set those to 0, you know. But this number right here is always accurate to the bed of the machine. This up here is just telling you where you zeroed out your X and Y. So I wrote that down. So what I'm going to do is go over to my tools and offsets. Move my camera just a little bit. And right down here is where you set your G offset. And I have several, but only one that I use all the time, which is the one for my fence, which I always refer to as my G55, and that's because it's set to my G55. The coordinates to the inside corner of my fence are right here. That never changes. But we're just going to create a new one here. So we're going to go with the G57 here. My X was 7.3779. My Y was 0.7953. Now I just save that, and from here on until I change this or delete that particular offset, this is going to show me where this location is, and it will remember this until the end of time if I don't delete it off of here at some point. All right, so now I'm going to show you how to turn on and enable the offset that you want to use for your project. So you can see mine is set to the G54 by default. When you turn on your Masso, it will always default to G54. The way to change it to a different G offset is you go to jog and probing. This is how I do it. Probing. And then you have your list of all your available G offsets right here. Well, we just set the G57, which is what I'm going to use for this project. So, see if I can get it in here. Just keep an eye right up here where it says G54. And I'm going to tap this G57. And you see that changed up there to G57. Now, our XY, which is the G57, is set for this project. Now I'm going to show you an excellent way to measure out your tiles and go ahead and mark them at this point. You'll be glad you did. Let me get that set up. Okay, probably the most common way to measure out your tiles would be just to use your tape measure, set it up here where we set the XY measure down here. In my case, would be 33¼ inches. But there's a more accurate way to do it than using this tape measure, and I'm fixing to show you how to do that. We're going to use the Masso to measure out our tiles. And this is much more accurate than any tape measure or human could possibly be. And this is very important to be accurate on this. So what we're going to do, we still got the spindle down here at my XY where we set our G57. So I'm just going to start rolling this baby back here, and I'm going to watch my Y number up here. And we're just going to move it to 33.25. Okay, now do my step mode. There's 33.2513, but we can be even more accurate than that. So let's do this. Step it down a notch. We'll come back. Step it down 2 notches, and we'll come back. And that is as close as I can get it with the tools that we have here. That's much more accurate than I could ever do with a tape measure. So what I do now is go up there to the spindle and I'm going to mark where that bit is right now. So let's do that. All right, I've removed my dust boot so this will be easier to see. But all I got to do is come in here and put a mark right in the center of where my bit is right now. And we know that is 33¼ inches from the XY or G57. And when I get ready to cut this second tile, what I'm going to do is slide this board down to where this mark is directly underneath the XY, my G57. And you'll see that here in a little bit after I get this first tile carved. So we are finally ready to start making some man glitter. I've already set my files over here to the Masso. Everything's ready to go. All I got to do is hit rewind and cycle start. Now just do a quick tool change. Switch over to the 90-degree Ruby Jenny, which that's the wrong one right here. This one. And that's all there is to that. And then over here on the Masso, it says press please load tool, which I just did. Press cycle start after changing the tool. Right there. Now we're going to go back to work and we're going to finish tile 1. All right, that's the end of tile 1. Let's move this thing down, get started on tile 2. Get these couple screws out of here. All right, move this clamp. Now, gonna pull it down 33¼ inches. And what am I looking for? I'm looking for this mark that we made earlier there. I'm just gonna get it close to where the XY should be. Okay, somehow I failed to record the very first part of this next section, but what I did after I moved the board down and got it close to where the XY is, which is the G57, I went to the Masso and tapped on go to work origin. and that sends me to the G57 spot, which is the RXY for this project. And then I'm going to move the board underneath the bit. You don't move the bit to the line that we're going to be setting it with. You move the board to the bit. So that's what you're fixing to see. All right, I've got that tip of that V-bit directly in line with our line that we made earlier. That's our 33¼ inch mark according to the Masso. So now all we got to do is put some screws in there, get it bolted down and clamped down, and start carving again. Okay, I've got it screwed down. Just double checking, make sure that my workpiece here is still up against the fence for the entire length. And it is. So that looks good. All we got to do now is go to F6, tile 2, load. Okay. And we're going to go to program F2, program MDI. We're going to go to work origin. It just confirms we're in the right spot, and we are. And then just rewind, cycle start. Oh, it's smarter than me because I had forgot to change the bit. So we got to change out the bit and put the 1/4 inch downtown Jenny back in there. So let me do that. Use my MTC. Drop out that 90° groovy Jenny. Let's pop this 1/4 inch downtown Jenny back in there. And we're ready to rock and roll. So it's saying load the tool, cycle start. After changing the tool, cycle start. All right, that's all for the downtown Jenny. Now we gotta swap back out, put that 90° back in there. Hit cycle start, and go back to work. I'm sure a lot of you have noticed that, like after I changed from the end mill to the shorter bit, which is the 90° groovy Jenny V bit, I didn't have to reset my Z. And the reason is I already have my Z offset programmed into my Masso tool database. So when I entered my 90° groovy Jenny into my tool database, there's a section in there where you can let it measure using a tool setter. It'll measure that bit and assign it a permanent offset. And that's how I'm able to do this. It just makes things so much simpler. And that's why, I'm always suggesting and kind of preaching that you need to have your tools in your Masso database. And that's just one of many benefits of having them already in your Masso. So y'all think about that. And if you want to make your job a whole lot easier on your CNC, go ahead and take care of that tool database. And I have a video that explains how to do that too. I'll have it linked below. Notice how the bottoms of those letters are flat. That is that flat depth that we talked about in the VCarve Pro section of this video. If we weren't running a flat depth, then you would have that classic V look down in the bottom of your VCarve. But we couldn't do that because, as you can see there, that bit is a lot smaller in diameter than the width of those letters, so it would plunge all the way through. That's why we had to do the flat depth. But that's a perfect example there of what you're going to have whenever you have to do a flat depth on your V-carve. So in this case, the V-bit, its only job is to chamfer the edges after the end mill does its job. All right, that's all of tile 2. We're going to move it down and run tile 3. All right, I've got the board moved down. All I got to do is load up tile 3 right here. And there we go. Going to hit rewind, cycle start. And I got to go change that bit. All I got to do is hit cycle start. 3, 2, 1. If you're enjoying this video and feel like maybe you're learning something, give me a like down below. I'd sure appreciate that, and it helps my channel more than you could ever know. And if you haven't already subscribed for more great content, go ahead and hit that subscribe button too. This is the perfect time to do that, and I promise you I'm not going to let you down on that. You'll learn a lot from my channel. And if you're really impressed, you could consider giving a super thanks or tipping me in some way, like through Patreon or whatever's convenient for you. That's always appreciated. But the best way to support my channel is through a channel membership. Just click the join button below. You won't be obligated to anything. You'll just kind of get to see what different tiers I have and what the perks are. And that is by far the best way to be consistent in supporting my channel. And if you consider that, I would certainly appreciate it. All right, side 1 is finished. All I have to do is flip it over and rinse and repeat. Do the exact same thing one more time. Turned out great. Remember, right here is where the first and second tile met, right between those letters, no problems. And then the third tile started right here before that last dot there. Everything's in line. It looks just exactly like it should. Now, you may be wondering, well, when you flip that board over, how are you going to keep it flat with this big old piece of molding on there? Well, the plan is I'm going to take like a 2x4 rip it down a little bit, and I'll lay one piece here and one piece on this edge and just run it the entire length or as close as I can get, and that will keep side 2 level with the bed of the CNC. So there we go. All 4 pieces are in place. Now I've just got to shuffle it around, flip it over, and slide it in place. We'll get started on side 2. Hey Tony, your side's ready to pick up. I got both sides carved, both sides painted, and I sanded off just this down here to kind of get a look at it, see what it's going to look like. It's going to look great. So it's ready whenever you are. Just let me know when you want to come get it. All right, that's another one in the books. You notice I didn't finish the sign as far as the painting and sanding and all that, and the reason is I didn't need to. He was going to sand the whole thing down and refinish it, and I think he's going to even go with walnut stain on it. So all I had to do was get the paint and the letters, and that was all of it. My job was finished. So the sign turned out great. I can't wait to see it hanging in their church, so that's going to be pretty cool. Anyway, if you haven't already, subscribe, give me a like, and consider a membership. Be sure and check out all the links that I've mentioned in this video will be included down below. Also, I will have our Amazon storefront link down below. Click on there and check out those straight edges that I've mentioned earlier. Those things are awesome, and that is one heck of a deal. And I've got tons of other things in our store that I use basically every day here in the shop. So that's it for this one. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. So I'm out here trying to make this video, and y'all can hear in the background, it's storming and carrying on. I ain't never been this tired of thunder and lived over it. True story.